to a new interview episode of the Retro Game Time Machine podcast. This week, Time Travelers, we are interviewing Dangil of Twitch, who is an artist and upcoming Hollow Knight speedrunner. I am Mash the Newton, and joining me through a series of tubes is my co-host Andy the Android and our guest Dangil.
Hello.
Guys,
hello.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Of course. Thanks so much for being here. What's going on with you guys on this fine Saturday? Though I guess this is going to be coming out in a while, so I'm not going to say what day it is, so people don't know the delay time.
I might have a clue there for the audience. What's going on this Saturday? Elden Ring is going on this Saturday. Too.
Elden Ring. Yeah. How are you liking that?
Very much. I think it's amazing. That'll be the word.
Yeah, it looks really good. I'm feeling some FOMO right now, but I also just don't know if I want to get into it quite yet. I still want to get through Dying Light 2.
Okay. Yeah, it is. You need to dedicate a lot of time for Elden Ring. It's gonna consume your free time entirely.
I've heard a lot of comparisons to like Breath of the Wild, and sorry to cut you off there, but like that's what happened to me. Was I happened to be unemployed when Breath of the Wild came out, so I played for a month straight, like every day.
Yeah, the game it doesn't, you don't see an end to it, and that's a good thing. Like every day, like I'm playing, right, and I'm like, okay, I got to be closer to the end of this game. And then I find a new area, and it's like I've played for 7 hours, and I'm like, okay, I think I should go to sleep, right? Yeah, the game doesn't end. It's amazing.
Yeah, it looks so huge. That is part of the appeal, but also part of the reason for me why I'm like, I really need to hold off. It's like I feel like I need to like finish other things before I just like clear my gaming schedule and try to get into that game. And who knows? Maybe that'll be long enough that I can get it on sale or something. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, hopefully.
We'll see. Yeah, it'll probably be a few months for me. By the time everyone's like completing their second or third playthrough, I'm sure.
Right. But yeah, you got to be careful. Like even this last week, I was playing the game, and I was even considering not streaming, because I wanted to play the game more. And I was like, I think it's affecting everything now. And I was like, you know what? I need to calm down on the thing and do other stuff as well. But I haven't felt this way with any other games like in a long, long time. And that's a nice feeling to have again.
Nice. All right.
And no shame to anyone who's done this. I remember I had a coworker when the PlayStation 4 launched. He basically took a week off work. Like, just like, I'm taking, that's my vacation. Like, really, a week here to play launch games on the PlayStation 4? And and so no judgment, but I'm just like, people have done more drastic things for less.
for lunch games are rough. So yeah, I don't know if that was the right call,
but Breath of the Wild was a launch game. But it also wasn't. It was also an end of generation game. Nintendo does that a lot.
Yeah.
But, all right. Well, I guess enough about Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild and other things for now. Let's get down to business and start asking you some questions. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to your answers.
Your boy. Okay.
So I guess the first thing it's not really. It's technically not on the sheet for you. But it should be a nice softball, which is tell me and the folks at home about a bit about what you do, like what it is that makes you on Twitch and everything.
All right. So, well, I am currently a Hollow Knight speedrunner. So I stream a bunch of Hollow Knight, and I'm also a challenge runner. So recently I completed a hitless run of Hollow Knight. And that was a thing that we were doing. I was routing the whole game with the help of someone who was in chat as well. And then I found out that they are also a streamer. So we kind of started watching each other's streams, and then we routed together the whole thing, and we started doing it at the same time. And it was quite an adventure. It was really fun. So currently I am a Hollow Knight speedrunner and challenge runner as well. that's what I'm basically doing. I'm also an artist, well, an emote artist, to be more precise, and we do some emotes. The emotes of my channel and the art of my channel is all done by me. In chat, we stream that as well. So together, we just like I try to teach people how to do their own emotes, how to make them, and using free tools and stuff like that. So yeah,
That's awesome. I saw that there are VODs that are up of that, and like I didn't really realize that you did that until just recently, and I kind of want to go and check it out because I'm also in need of some emotes, and I was thinking about making some for myself or paying somebody. I'm not sure, but since you're saying you're trying to teach people how to do it, I should go check that out. That's amazing.
yeah. In fact, a couple of people from my chat, have they have also watched the VODs, and they go to the VODs to do their own emotes, and some of them have like it's
Nice.
really fun to see that they give it a shot, and now they're doing their own emotes. It's really fun.
All right. Well, first official question for you. What's something about you that most people familiar with your work wouldn't know?
You mean like exclusively to what I do on Twitch?
Yeah.
I think for most of people who just see me there, is like they don't know that I have been playing video games for over 35 years. Like that's something that they don't expect, and it usually is because they assume my age is much less than that, and they don't
You don't have to
expect
brag.
me having. No, it's
No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
no, you look great.
I know, I
really.
But the truth is, like I always catch them off guard when I'm like, oh yeah, I remember back in the day when I was like my first console, or when I was playing the 2600 or the NES, and they're like, what? And it's like, yeah, sure. It's one of those things. So that's I would say that is one of the biggest surprise. Being an artist was also a surprise for most of the people who were watching at the time, because this is not something that happened immediately. I did study graphic design back in the day, and that was my first bachelor. But I never really did anything with it. I just worked for a while with that, but then that was it, and that was like over 20 years ago. And when I started the channel, I think it was like a month after, when I was already affiliated and I wanted some emotes. And I was like, I should make them myself, but I'm colorblind. So I was very afraid of, doing something that was just way too off. And I had the help from a friend, and I did the sketch for the first two emotes, and she just traced them and painted them.
Cool.
Then for the third emote, she couldn't do it anymore. She had no time. And I was like, I guess I'm going to have to do it myself. And that's how it started. So that also surprised a lot of people at the beginning. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of learned that tracing is how everyone sort of learns how to draw in a way. Yeah. So
Right.
you definitely have to at least have the design help you go through the motions. So something I'm still working on. So.
I mean, there is, talking about art and whatnot, there is because I never did digital art before this. I just sketched everything on paper, and the emotes, most of them are sketched on paper first. And but I had this tablet and I never really used it. I was kind of afraid of it. I used it once and I felt uncomfortable with it. And I was like, I don't like this thing. When the emote thing happened, I was, okay, I need to give it a shot, like a fair, chance to this thing. And I love it now. And I would say I would just recommend it to anyone who wants to do something with it. If you can find one super cheap for like $30 or so, and just start practicing, because it's really, really good. It's a game changer too.
That's really encouraging. We'll absolutely do that. So you kind of talked about, starting the stream, but was there anything specifically that really kind of, so you talked about creating content, but so the question is, what made you start, sort of streaming, creating content, or podcast if applicable?
So the story is a little bit complex. Like I started watching streams back in 2012 or something like that. I think Twitch was very new, or it was still Justin TV or something. I don't remember. But I never interacted with any streamer whatsoever. I was just watching the streams because of the game. I'm I was very shy, so I was always very hesitant to talk in the chat and feel like I was invading or whatever. And I felt like throughout the years, I felt like most communities, at least from the big streamers, are very hostile, or they can be very hostile towards like newcomers, or you just get ignored because that's the nature of it. And I kind of wanted something different. I didn't know at the time of smaller communities. I didn't know how many of Twitch streamers are actually small communities. And one day, a friend of mine who is now a mod in my channel. It's because of her that I started streaming, actually, because she said one day, "Hey, I don't know Hollow Knight. I want to see the game, but I want to see you playing it. Could you do that for me?" And I was like, "I don't know." And she was like, "Please do it. Do it on Twitch so I can watch." And I started doing it, and I streamed like for 2 or 3 days, and she was the only viewer, right? And that was it. That was the end of it. And I was like, okay, I'm not a streamer. This is not going to happen. I had like a very bad computer, and I think the microphone was still from my earphones or something. Like I don't remember, from my cell phone. Yeah. I think it was really bad. And but she had fun with it, and she said, okay, if you upgrade your computer, would you do it again? And I said, sure, why not? I thought she was joking, but then I upgraded my computer, and she was there all the time. Like, are you going to stream? When is the stream? I want you to stream. I gave you this game on Steam so you can stream it. I'm like, you know what? Okay, let's do it. And that was the beginning. So that's how I started. That's basically why I started streaming. And then suddenly there were more people, yeah.
And if you want to give any shout outs to streamers or any of these, you totally can. So feel whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because like the whole thing is such a journey. I'm very new to Twitch as a streamer. I started only on, I think it was April last year or late March last year.
Okay.
So everything grabbed me by surprise, the whole thing. Being a streamer is much more than the moment you are just there live and people just watch you play. There's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of behind the scenes. If you want your stream to look good, sound good, and be welcoming and all these things, that it requires a lot of work. And that's something that goes unappreciated most of the time. So I wanted that. I wanted to offer that experience to people who came to the stream, right? Like I wanted to look as good as I possibly can do with, like the tools that I have as an affiliate or with the money that I have that I can invest in the stream as well. Because, well, at the end of the day, you also can improve with money.
Yes.
And, better microphone or better camera or whatnot. But then I met a lot of people along the way, and you kind of start, like, the whole community thing starts, getting together, and they start to merge into one huge community. And you see people that are also streamers, that they become your friends, and that you're part of their community and they're part of yours. So at the end of the day, it's like a huge thing. People, I don't know if you know, but Minister Gold is a good example of this. He's a streamer. He's a Kaizo Mario streamer and a variety streamer as well. And the Jank, who is also a very nice streamer, very good streamer, very nice friend of mine. And I met them first, and then through them, it was that I started to meet more people, and the whole thing starts just like snowballing of sorts. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I got led to raid your stream one day while I was streaming because Andy, I was ending my stream and Andy was like, "Hey, you should raid Dangil," and I was like, "Okay, sure, that sounds great." And it led to us doing this now, so I think that's fantastic.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah,
yeah. Of course.
I mean, I kind of felt guilty, like honestly, about the whole podcast thing. Because podcast, being in a podcast, but also like,
I mean, continue, but you're fine.
Yeah, like when you rated that day, I was like, oh, because I remember the podcast thing. The podcast was something that I didn't know you guys were doing, and when I knew about it, I was so fascinated by it. I was like, this is amazing. This is great. This is something I always wanted to do myself. And be part of a podcast or create my own or whatever. But I never had like the, what it takes to do it. I guess. I mean, I never went into it. I never had the courage to go ahead and do it. And when I knew you were doing it, I was like, this is so amazing. Like, I'm so thankful for the whole streaming thing that I get to meet these people who are doing such cool stuff. And I think I mentioned something like that when you rated.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I mean, then you said like you would like to have me here too.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I feel a little guilty. Like I feel like I put some pressure on you, but but I'm also not sorry because I'm actually very happy to be here. So it's okay.
Yeah, it all worked out. All right. Well, the next question I've got for you is, what year did you begin your gaming journey? And I also have some follow-ups. But I'll let you answer the first question, and then I'll keep moving down the line with this group.
All right. So the exact year should have been 1986 when I started playing video games. It was all because of my dad. He's a lawyer, and I think back then he got paid partially like with money and partially with things, with goods, whatever.
Okay.
And he got like a console, and he brought it home, and it was 2600. It was an Atari 2600, and yeah, that was like how I the year I started. Like he was like, "We want to try it." And I apparently I said yes, and I started doing it. So I have vague memories of certain things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was very young. I was 2.5, 3 years old. So yeah.
All right. So then the follow-up to that was, what was your first game? And then I'll throw out the second follow-up to that, which is, what was the first game that you wanted for yourself?
Oh, so the first game that I have memory of playing is Asteroids for the 2600. And I remember liking it, and I remember liking the colors. But I think that's when my family knew, and they realized that I was colorblind as well. Because apparently I started calling different colors on the screen that were not there.
Okay.
And yeah, so Asteroids is the first memory I have of video games. And the first game I wanted was The Legend of Zelda, because the cartridge was gold.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't believe my eyes. And I saw the game. My cousin had it, I think. And I just like, can I have it? Can I take it? Okay. Yeah, that was the first one I for sure wanted.
Nice.
It took a while then for me to have it, but yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, those golden cartridges, they were quite the marketing.
Oh yeah.
Did you read any video game magazines growing up? If so, which ones? Did you have a subscription?
So I'm from Colombia, and in Latin America, in the late 80s and the 90s, things were much more different than they are right now. So if you go right now to pretty much any Latin American country, it's going to be the same experience as anywhere in the world. Like, internet has brought the world together, and the world is very small. So you're going to find anything you want in any Latin American country. But back in the day, wasn't the case. Imports were like way more complicated to do. It was more expensive, like this kind of thing. So we didn't have a lot of access to international magazines or whatnot. I also grew up in this monolingual country. In Colombia, the official language is Spanish as well. So there was no chance for me to get like a magazine from a different country. But in the early 90s, there was an initiative that was created in Mexico that was supported by Nintendo. And it was a magazine called Club Nintendo in Spanish, which is Nintendo Club. And they started like selling that magazine all over Latin America. And it was a monthly issue of the thing. And you couldn't get a subscription to it, but you knew that it was coming. And they had some fan art, and they had like different covers, and it was a dream, because so many games that you couldn't have or you didn't know about, that was your only source of new information. So I will be there every month at the whatever the supermarket, just waiting for the issue to get it. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. I remember obviously the experience was different in the US, but like I do remember also just going to the grocery store, looking at the magazine rack, going like, are there new issues yet? Nope, it's the old one still.
Yeah, sometimes you would skip 1 month or something. You didn't know why, and there was no explanation because there was no way to know. It was like, well, that it is what it is. Yeah. I do have a couple of those still back home in Colombia. There is one of Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Actually,
Oh, nice.
it's beautiful. It has a poster, like the whole thing. It's yeah. I still have that one. I think it's very nice.
Amazing.
I really love the Zelda art from that time period. It's one of my favorites. So
Yeah, good art. Let's see. Next question we got for you is, what was the first gaming console or device that you bought with your own money?
All right. So I was kind of working my ass off as a kid, doing stuff here and there, like doing like whatever. And I was the errand boy of the family, and I was saving. And in Colombia, the let's say the dominant console was the Nintendo consoles, whatever was the NES or the SNES, right?
Okay.
We didn't have much Sega going on. We knew about it. Some people would have it, but it wasn't like the big deal. And for some reason, I got obsessed with the idea of getting a Genesis. I was like, I want a Sega Genesis. And so I saved and I bought the Genesis. That was the first console I actually paid with my own money because I already had an SNES. And I was like, I want a Genesis. And I don't know, guys, if you're going to hate me for this, but I immediately regretted the whole thing. I was like, why did I do this? I hate this console so much.
Why did you hate it?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I wouldn't right now. Like, I'll be happy to have it right now, I guess.
Because of those 3 buttons and only 3 buttons?
Yeah, the controller was so annoying for me. I remember that I got it with also Street Fighter 2.
Well, that's the problem. You got a 3-button Genesis controller with Street Fighter? That's like the worst. That's the worst way to play that game. I mean,
I know, but that wasn't my fault.
No. I'm not trying to say it's your fault. But anyway, that's just bad. I'll let you continue.
Yeah, it was so bad. So I was like, I think I was playing Street Fighter, and you have to press start or something for your 3 buttons to change from punches to kicks.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you expect me to win anything here? Like, how do you expect me to go through this game? Like, I hate this. And then I had another game. It was like a dinosaur game. I don't remember anymore which game that was. And I hated it. It was janky, and the Genesis sound chip was weird to me. Like, it sounds weird. I was like, I hate this console so much. So and then, like, I grew older, and I was like, oh, I wish I still had my Genesis, because I think I sold it or something. But yeah.
You just got started off with the wrong games is all.
Yeah, I was so unlucky. But yeah, I didn't like it that much.
As far as like your access to video games, did you have video game rental stores?
Yeah.
Did you rent games, and do you want to any standout experiences there?
Yeah. So okay, the way to find new games and things like that was you would go to any of like bigger Colombian cities. You would go to the city center, to downtown, and they're gonna have a whole, basically like a whole neighborhood that is for electronics and these kind of things, right? And in those areas where you're gonna find the new games and whatnot. However, we also would have like small rental places where like people would have like consoles for people to play on, and they would also rent the games. And we didn't have, like, in the early 90s, we didn't have anything like Blockbuster or anything like that. Blockbuster, I think it came like in the mid 90s. But before that, it was like like down the street, there is this house where these people have like 5 TVs with 5 different consoles, and they also rent the game. So it's like, you just go there, right? And they would have, like a whole whatever, like a stand with a lot of games that second hand and third hand, or who knows where they got those from.
Amazing.
And they will just rent those, and they will give you also adapters. Like back in the NES days, it was way cheaper to get a Famicom cartridge than getting an NES cartridge. And they will give you the adapter as well. You would buy the adapter to make the Famicom cartridge work on your, like American NES, which was the one that we used, the gray box.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, like many of those cartridges were also like Chinese, and they will have like 8,000 in one kind of games, and it's just the same but recolors and different palette, and that was it. Yeah, so that would happen. I did rent a lot of games when I was growing up, and then things went shady at some point when I was like 11 or 12 years old, because my brother, I have an older brother and half brother, and he came to me once and he was like, "Hey, look, I have these games," and it was Alien. I think it was Alien 3 for the SNES.
Yeah.
And he was like, the board of this game doesn't work anymore. And I found this special screwdriver thing, and I'm like, what are we doing with this? Where are you going with this? And he was like, well, we're gonna go rent a game that we want. And I'm like, okay. And we went and rent the game, and then my brother just opened the whole thing, swapped the boards, and then returned it because it was broken. And then that's how we started. Like at the end of the SNES generation, I already had like 15 cartridges of SNES. I didn't have that money to have 15 cartridges of SNES, but apparently I have those, and I'm like, oh, okay. I was very young, and I never did it myself, but I was like, I knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it because it was easy to do, I guess. Like, it was something that people were doing apparently, and that was like how this game circulated. It was just a crazy thing. You will find a lot of piracy though, as well, a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think
that might make it a little. That might make it a little hard to figure out which game is which, right? Because the covers have been switched, right? Plug it in and find out.
At the end, you never know. You know, it's like, oh yeah, it's the Super Mario RPG, but it's in the cartridge of like whatever.
But it's in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's in Jurassic Park. Like, Jurassic Park's actually Super Mario RPG. Yeah.
All right. Well, the next question I've got for you is: were you a loyalist to any particular platform? Sounds like maybe. But I'm kind of curious in the long run.
I think it was mostly convenience. I was a Nintendo, let's say, loyalist when I was growing up, but because they were the main presence, and they had the games I was interested in. The same with the SNES, like, although the golden age of SquareSoft, and it was on the SNES. And then the N64 happened, and I hated the controller. Like, I despised the controller. And Sony came with the PlayStation, and I loved the controller because it was basically a better version to me of the SNES controller. It was like, hey, it's the SNES controller with 2 more buttons. I love this thing. And I went that route with the PlayStation, also because it was cheaper because of the market in Colombia. So they sold the consoles, the PlayStations. They were mostly sold with the chip that allowed you to bypass the protection, so you can load up copies of games. Like, you can just burn your CD, your ISO, and then play it. So you would get your Sony PlayStation with 15 to 20 games already.
Wow.
And so it was more convenient. With cartridges, they couldn't do that, right? So yeah, I went Sony on that generation. Xbox wasn't that much of a big deal over there either, and they didn't have really anything that interested me that much, because Square was now on PlayStation basically at the time, and I was like a diehard JRPG gamer. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with Sony. So yeah, I would say that was it. Nintendo and Sony then, but I wasn't like a fanboy, like you like the other ones, you suck. Yeah, it wasn't really that. It was just like, hey, they offer me what I want, and that's what it is.
Yeah, that's always been my understanding. Sony had a pretty good grip around the world, but like here in the United States, you might not think so, just with how Xboxes are so prevalent. I mean, plenty of people like Sony too. In fact, PlayStation 4 is probably a better selling console. But anyway, it's just interesting.
But that's just funny, because like the opposite is also true. Like I would say that in the US, probably, that people don't expect Xbox not to be that big in the rest of the world. Like, Xbox is really not that big in the rest of the world. Here in Europe, I live in Belgium now. And here in Europe, you really don't see that much Xbox, and Xbox things are either super limited, and no one really talks about Xbox here. And it is the same in Latin America. It's not really that big. So yeah, I guess is this kind of thing when they have their market, right, which is the US, and they're so big there that people just can't imagine that it's not like that in the rest of the world. But yeah, it's totally
Yeah,
I know they sell. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I think the only other place that I've ever seen that they've like taken hold is like in the UK, but that's it. It's like the US and the UK, and nowhere else really.
Yeah,
then it's going to be like the 5 people in Japan that also have an Xbox.
I think they flopped in Japan very hard, right?
Oh yeah,
like it wasn't.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. I was like, I want to meet the people in Japan that are buying Xboxes. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Are you guys total hipsters? Like,
when I was there,
Right.
it was like the smallest section of like, here's like Nintendo. It's like a whole floor of this store, and like Sony, also the same thing. And it's like, and then off in this corner, here's like 10 Xbox games that you can buy.
and then there's the 5 Japanese people who actually own an Xbox are just there, just staring at at those 10 games.
That's it.
Yeah, do I buy this one again?
It's like, should I need to support them. You know, they need the money.
Yeah, totally. Do you have an all-time favorite game or gaming franchise?
Oh yeah, that is a tough question. I guess everyone would say the same, but I thought a little bit about this, and I think that my definitive answer for that would be yes. My favorite video game is Suikoden 2.
Oh, nice.
For the PlayStation 1. It's a JRPG, and if you don't know that game, you should go ahead and look for that game, and you should play the first one just to enjoy the second one even more. Suikoden 2 is an amazing video game. It's a golden era of Konami as well, I guess. It's a 1998, I think, 1997 game. It's really, really good. It's a JRPG, turn-based, but it has it all. On franchises, I mean, I don't know. Franchises are difficult to actually stick to because they can change so much. I think I would have given you the answer like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and I would have said, yeah, I love Final Fantasy. But then Final Fantasy keeps doing things that I'm like, I don't know anymore. so yeah, it's hard to pick favorites like that. It's better something that is already, done and gone, and it's like, okay, this one is still my favorite.
Fair enough. All right. Next question we got for you is, have your gaming taste changed over the years? And if yes, how?
Yeah, but I think like the older I get, the more I realize that the things I didn't like when I was younger, I still don't like, but I am much more like patient towards them. And I'm like, okay, I tolerate pretty much everything now. It's like, if you like it, it's good. I would probably, fight people over genres in the past when I was younger. I was like, no, that sucks, and you suck because you like it or something. And I'm not like that anymore. But I would say that my own tastes have changed also. As you noticed, probably, like, I'm talking about JRPGs and I'm talking about like the golden era of Squaresoft. I don't think I have the patience for those type of games anymore. I think it has changed a little bit. I was thinking about this the other day because there was a JRPG that I wanted to try. I think is this game, Chris Tales, which is an indie game. It's an RPG. It's a turn-based RPG. Is made by these devs, Colombian devs actually. They released the game this last year. The game looks beautiful. Has beautiful art, beautiful music. And I tried it, and I couldn't play it. I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore, man. I don't think I want to invest, 70 hours, 100 hours on a turn, like walking 2 steps and then running into a random encounter. I don't know anymore about this. So it has changed a little bit. I don't know if it's my patience or what, but it has changed.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, games like that are quite a time commitment, and it's not like... It's not like you're not playing other games that are a time commitment, but it's like, I don't know. It's like what you want to do with that time and what you want to experience with that time. So I totally get it.
Yeah, I think so. Is how much of those 70 hours is actually lost in meaningless battles, or versus like 70 hours of you like exploring a new game, like running through fields, seeing new things. So yeah.
Yeah, how does the game respect your time? That's kind of the way.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I think the whole industry has like grown to that extent, like on that direction. Is that they have to change too, because we have changed and we have also grown older, and now they have to deal with so many different audiences. Like I guess when we were younger, like when on the SNES era, like it was basically seen as one target audience. It was these people who play video games, who are still it's still a very obscure thing. It's still a thing that we don't talk about too much. It's still a thing that we're kind of everybody, like from creators to people who did it. It was a little bit of a taboo, to talk about. It was like, nah, let's talk about it, but let's talk about it like this.
Yeah.
Because you don't want everyone to know that you like these things or you do these things, right? And that has changed. Like now they have to deal with older gamers, with younger gamers, but with also like so many things that have changed in the world, because the world has changed. So I guess that sticking to those old things without any type of significant tuning to the formulas doesn't really work that well anymore, I think.
Yeah, especially talking about game length. It's like back in the day, if your game was 4 hours long, that's a bad game. That's trash. Like how you beat it in 4 hours is too little content because games are only sold at one price too. So
right, and games were super expensive too. Like gaming in the 90s were so expensive that the only way to justify that was like the game is long, right?
And it's only long because it's incredibly difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Which takes us to the point of like that difficulty, that the artificial difficulty that they started creating for those games, which was like basically make the game as full of pitfalls and traps as possible, and cheap death as possible, and that's difficult, which is something that's a little bit less acceptable right now.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, if new games are released that way, that is a automatic, like, this does not respect my time, screw this game.
Right. We have many options now. So
yeah.
How would you say that gaming has influenced your life?
Ooh. Well, I think it's always been present, right? Video games and these companies and these franchises and everything has been always present in one way or another. And I think also what I was saying before about the early 90s when video games were not as respected, let's say, as a media as they are right now, I think I kind of got that personally. And I was like, no, I like this thing. And I want to stand for this thing. And I want to show people that I can do things in my life, no matter what, and no matter what direction I go, and still represent the things I like, which are this, right? And I think like that right now, for instance, it's something that you can see on my daily, looks. I work at a university. I am pursuing a PhD, like all these things, and I'm still going to university with like my Hollow Knight hoodie and stuff like that. And it's like, it is what it is. This is part of my life. This is big. Like I play video games whenever I have the time. I now stream video games. I would say that it has influenced everything I do in life, has had something to do with video games at some point. And it is because either over video games or they helped me through a very hard moment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Amazing. All right. Next question that we've got for you is, what is your favorite controller pre-Xbox 360 PS3 generation?
SNES, probably.
Yeah.
If it's not the SNES, it has to be the DualShock. Like the DualShock, either one or two.
Nice. Not the 3-button Genesis controller? That's not your favorite?
No, that's a very close second.
Man, your experience with the Genesis would have been so much different if you had a 6-button controller when you were playing Street Fighter 2. Man,
That would have changed
yeah.
everything.
I wonder
Because
where
then-
you'd be now.
Because then I associated Sega with this kind of things for a while. Because a friend had a what was it the name of it? The Game Gear.
Yeah, Sega Game Gear.
The Game Gear, yeah. And I saw it and I was like, oh, this is so amazing because I had a Game Boy, and the Game Gear was in color. And I was like, this
and
is
it's
so
backlit?
good. Yeah, it was so amazing. And then I tried to play it, and the batteries last for like 15 minutes. And I was like, well, this sucks too.
And it's 6 batteries.
Yeah, it was 6. So yeah, I kind of had a horrible experience with Sega at first, at least back then.
Yeah,
That changed.
that's understandable.
It sucks.
That's kind of a great segue to our next questions. Or our next question.
But wait, because I'm also interested. Which one do you guys like of the controllers?
Oh,
So I wanna
how are the
know.
turntables? What's funny is I think somebody asked me and I think I answered, and I'm like, crap, am I going to say the same answer now? Maybe it's going to be different. Maybe I have a favorite pre-Xbox 360 gen controller every time somebody asks me. Like, it's going to be different.
You have been caught in the trap now.
I got to say, I guess pre that generation, I think I love the Dreamcast controller. I think I've probably said Saturn, which I also love the crap out of that controller. At least the second version of it. But I don't know. I feel like the Dreamcast controller is like what became like the Xbox controller, and I love the Xbox controller.
The original one, like the beefy rock.
What the Xbox controllers have become. Like I love the offset stick, and I know the Dreamcast only has one stick, but I don't know. I really loved the feeling of that controller in my hand. And I know this isn't the controller itself, but the VMU is amazing. I love
It's
that
amazing.
little, like that little device was so freaking cool. So yeah, that.
I think that's a solid choice. Like the
It's
Dreamcast
good.
controller is amazing.
All right, Andy, what about you?
Yeah, I have to say, because I mean, I love many controllers, but the GameCube controller is very like when I hold that, small light controller, it kind of feels like an extension of myself. I really like, I know the C stick isn't great. It's not great it's not what it was made for. It's not made for, first person shooters, but I really love, sort of that like hexagonal sort of gate that it sits in.
Yeah.
And just the feeling of like doing a spin attack in Zelda or something, just that's, that sound it makes, everything feels really good about that controller. The only real shame about it is it's really difficult to find games that you can play with it today, just because it's missing, a left shoulder button. The sticks don't click. So
Yeah.
very difficult to use now. But if I can find a game where it works, I absolutely whip that thing out.
I feel like controller is kind of a thing of its own. Like that was very. It was very well thought for that console, and it was just for that console, and that's it. Like that controller was very specific, and it feels like that. It feels very special as well. I love the type of kind of shoulder buttons that it has.
Mhm. Yeah,
it
digital
feels
and
super
analog.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels so good, and it feels like it's very accessible as well. Like accessibility was a thing in mind, I guess, because the different shapes and like sizes of buttons. I think it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Miyamoto said that this controller is going to live on for like 15, 20 years. And if you look at the Super Smash Brothers community, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
He was right.
Big time.
That is true.
And then, so we were talking about, are there any games you appreciate now that you didn't appreciate when you were younger? Kind of talking about the Genesis or maybe something else?
Yeah, I would say that those Genesis games probably like I went later on. I went back to play some Sonic because I wanted to know what I was missing. Right, everyone was talking about Sonic, and I saw it once or twice, but I never really played it. I went back and I was like, oh, I understand now. This sounds incredible. This feels super good, and it is so different. Like I understand now why people like this. But I was way older then. So I think I have had those moments when I go back and review something that I thought I hated or I thought I had a bad experience with, and then you either confirm or or not, but I'm always open to that at least second chance of the thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Gotta go back. See, I did the same thing with the pumpkin spice latte for a number of years. Went back, tried it out. Nope, I still hate this. And
There you go.
Yeah. But you got to
Yeah.
give it a fair shake.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I mean, it would be the same if I go right now to that Street Fighter with that 3-button controller, right? I would still hate it. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
All right. Next question we have for you is, what is your favorite gaming mascot?
Huh.
And you know what? I'll just extend this to your favorite video game character in general, if you have one.
Ooh. I think one, since I'm thinking about Suikoden 2 right now because of the previous question. So I think I would say that one of the best villains that I have ever encountered and read on video in any video game story is from Suikoden 2. It's Luca Blight.
Okay.
And Luca Blight is just ridiculously well written. Like, you're gonna hate that character right away. And if a writer, no matter the media, makes you hate one of the characters or makes you love one of the characters, then you know it's good.
Oh, definitely.
Right? So yeah, I would say Luca Blight then if I had to choose one, because there's many characters that you like. Talking about mascots specifically, it's hard, like, because I don't love. If I think of Mario, for instance, I like some of the Marios. I don't like them all. So it's hard to like the mascot as a mascot if I'm not a diehard fan of all the games or whatever. So yeah.
Fair enough.
What about you guys? Which one do you like?
I did a whole top 10 episode, or I guess not a top 10 episode. I was recently on a podcast called the Back Bedroom Podcast, and I gave my top 10 video game characters. So I'll just say my number one from that was, though I changed it during the episode, my number one is Gordon Freeman from Half-Life.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. Also, shout outs to Jeffrey out there, the Back Bedroom Podcast. There's one that I sort of thought about recently because of some reason or another. Sorry, I don't mean to spoil any of his podcast stuff recently, but John Marston is a great character.
Yeah.
Like from Red Dead Redemption, there's just something about playing as him. I just felt incredibly aligned, and I don't know, almost like a role model, like specifically John Marston playing. I don't think John Marston's a bad guy. I don't think he actually does crime, because you can play that way in Red Dead Redemption, but playing as a good guy that always does the right thing. That's my John Marston. That's
nice.
Well, I think you're up.
Sorry. The next question here. So it's kind of assuming that you might have a sort of a game collection. Do you have a favorite item from said collection?
Yeah. I've been thinking about this since the magazine thinking that I was like telling you about this Nintendo Club thing from the 90s. I do have one. I have a Famicom cartridge. It's an original Famicom cartridge of Captain Tsubasa 2 for the NES. I mean, for the Famicom, right? It's I don't know if you're familiar with Captain Tsubasa or what it is. So Captain Tsubasa is an anime series. It's a soccer anime.
Okay.
And it was extremely popular in Latin America as well. And they released a couple of games, but those games are like Japan exclusive. And the second one is one of the first games that I have like a very fond memories of playing with my brother. And the reason why I started studying Japanese as well. And I was like, I want to learn Japanese because I need to, because it had like a password system, and it was very long. And I had to memorize like the symbols, and I didn't know what they meant. So I was like, I need to learn these things to know what the passwords are. And I do have that cartridge. It's a Famicom Black cartridge. It's really nice. So yeah, I love that game. Love that game. It has a killer soundtrack, by the way. If you ever want to hear some good music.
We like video game soundtracks on this podcast. we are fans.
Kind of a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then the next question I have for you is, if you could go back in time to the release day of any console or game, which would it be and why?
I don't like releases that much of consoles because I feel like they're always a mess. At least on the ones that I remember as an adult.
Sure.
So my fondest memories have to be SNES because I was a kid, but I was already like, conscious enough to remember the whole thing right now. So I think the SNES would be a good one. I think being amazed by Super Mario World the first time I saw it, I think it's something I will never get again. Like that was it. It was that moment.
It was amazing.
And yeah, it was incredible. It was like that controller only, like the jump they did on that generation was ridiculous. And Super Mario Brothers 3 is a huge game for the NES. And it was already as pretty as they come. But Super Mario World was just a different level. So yeah.
Nice.
Let's see. What is your favorite thing in gaming right now? Could be gaming genre, hardware, gaming trend.
So you mean to do or like that happens in gaming in general?
Really just like anything at all, like in the realm of gaming.
Right. I think something that kept me like there was a moment when life was getting really hard and really not only busy but also very difficult to handle. And I think video games started to just like kind of go to a second place in my life. And the thing that kept me coming back, and I think that the thing that kept me connected to video games was mostly speedruns. I think speedrunning is something I really, really like. And I think speedruns are I like them because I feel they are very positive for games as, as the entire of games, I would say. Because so many games have become relevant again because of speedruns. Like so many of those games will be lost in time and people will forget about them if there wasn't this guy on Twitch streaming this very obscure game. And at least to him and his audience, or to them and their audience, is like the game is very much alive and the game is never went away.
Yeah.
So I love that about speedrunning.
Nice.
Yeah, I have to relate on a note there too. Like one of my, loves for like Ocarina of Time is, that game could, in a way, not for speedrunning, would kind of die for me. Like it wouldn't be interesting at all. But like almost every night, I'm watching speedruns of these because I like seeing how the game can be sort of torn apart and new ways to play the game. So, and I've learned a couple skips myself. Just be like, what if I don't want to go to the Deku Tree? Like at the beginning of the game, like what if I want to go do something else and just see what happens? See how the game breaks and how I can soft lock myself into different ways. But yeah, that speedrunning is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that like I don't think I ever really paid any attention to until really like the past few years, especially with talking with Andy too. He's like, as we've been going through different games for the show, he's like, oh, you got to check out the speed run of this of this game that we're playing. And like it took me a little while to kind of start getting into them, but then I went and I like for our Half-Life 2 episode, I watched a full like 56-minute speed run of Half-Life 2. But part of the reason I did it was because it also had some developer commentary. So the folks that worked on the game were like, how are they? It's like, how is this even possible? Like we thought that we coded that you couldn't do any of this stuff. So it's fun. I think especially speedrunning with developer commentary is like a thing that I would love to see.
Oh, it's
more.
amazing. It's amazing. I think it's Igarashi of from Konami.
Oh yeah.
And he did like pretty much the second half of Symphony of the Night. And when he saw the way people just broke their game, because that game is super broken, and when he saw that people found out those things, he actually felt so ashamed of the whole thing.
Oh, poor guy.
And he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I presented this game that is so broken to you guys. And he felt bad. Like, I don't know if you've watched that speedrun, but the one technique is called shield dashing. And basically you use the dash that Alucard has to go backwards. And you can cancel that with putting up your shield. And what they do, what speedrunners would do, is alternate. So they will be dashing constantly and super quickly. Yeah. And that's just like, as a developer, I mean, it's hard to, predict that people are going to use those things and exploit them, right?
Yeah, you really don't know how people are going to play your game until it's been out in the wild for a while. Because like you can play test all you want, but your play testers might just try to play the game the way it's supposed to be played. Well, supposed to be, in your mind as a developer.
Well, the thing is, right. But the thing is, like, fortunately, right now, I guess, fortunately for them in that case, is that we can have these patches now. They can patch the game. This is not something we had before. No. Like, it was like, this is your game. Surprise.
Yeah, good, bad, or indifferent. Here is the finished product.
Yeah. And then you would never know if they had, like, issues during development or not, or if you have 5 endings or none. Like, it's like, I guess everything's a surprise.
Yeah. All right. Next question I got for you is, if you could go back in time to change one thing in gaming history, what would it be?
I would delay the release of the Dreamcast.
Okay.
I think I would like to save the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
I think the Dreamcast is an underrated, and it was so unfortunate what happened back in the day. And I think they deserve better. Like, Dreamcast deserved much better.
It's so good.
It's an amazing console.
It is.
Such a good system. And so I think I would delay the release of the Dreamcast a couple of years maybe, so it will hit harder. Because I think it was like a series of unfortunate events, right? What happened to the Dreamcast? And
there were quite a few missteps made by Sega. Like, it's funny. I think most people I've talked to so far and asked that question, pretty much everything has had to do with hopefully being able to like prevent the demise of Sega.
Yeah. and I was never like a Sega, I wasn't a Sega kid or anything like that, but I saw the Dreamcast. I played on the Dreamcast, and I wanted a Dreamcast so bad. And then you stopped hearing the name. Suddenly it was like not something that people were talking about. It's like, what happened? But this was great. What the hell happened? Like, you would never know. Yeah. And but I did play, like, I have great memories of Skies of Arcadia and Grandia, and it's like, hell yeah, Code Veronica, I think, was also there. And I love these games. I love them, and I love that system, and I love that controller. And so I would try to save the Dreamcast, I think. And if that means sacrificing the Saturn, I would.
I don't know, man. The Saturn, the Saturn's still so good, too. I just...
their version of Symphony of the Night was really good because it had the extra things and extra characters. Yeah. But the sound chip and the lack of transparencies, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I feel like I think people just started to... or I feel like Sega's focus was more like an extension of what the Genesis was, as opposed to trying to do what Sony was doing with 3D games. Like, I feel like they maybe felt pressured in having to like do that stuff where it's like, okay, well, now we need to have the same types of games as our competitors, but it's not exactly what the system was designed for.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it feels like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Saturn. I know you love the Saturn Mash, but that might have been, it was part of it. But many things could have been changed. So
yeah. I mean, they shouldn't have done the surprise like, hey, and it's in stores now. Like, it's E3 and here's the Sega Saturn. Go buy it. Like, you can't.
Shadow dropping a console is not a good idea.
Like, it sounds like a badass thing to do.
Oh yeah,
but it's really it didn't play out well.
Yeah, like many of the things that we complain about as gamers and as a community that people complain about every E3 or every video game awards, those complaints, like, we don't know what we want.
Yeah.
Like, things happen the way they happen for a reason. Like we said, like, I wish they they shadow drop this console today. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't want that. Like, you really don't. Like, just they know what they're doing. To an extent, of course, but like, they know better than you, at least. On the marketing department. So it's like, many of those cries, they really don't work. It's like, you kind of learn a little bit about this also on a very like smaller scale through streaming. Like, and I think I was talking to my chat the other day about this, and I was telling them, like, you think you know what you want, you don't. Like, because the requests start piling up and becoming more and more like, extravagant and weird. And it's like, why don't you add this to the channel and this to the channel and this? You think you know you want that, but you don't. It's something you're gonna use once and never again. So you kind of feel like parenting a little bit.
These are a couple of questions, so I sort of shadow dropped. But and I swear these have nothing to do with you as a person, or I have no idea how old you are or anything like that. So it just kind of sounds like I'm digging you with these questions, but
I have insider information.
That is true.
What has impressed you about gaming in your lifetime, or trends that you're seeing that we'd like to see more of? I know that we kind of talked about speedrunning, and some of these topics, but anything else to add?
Something that had impressed me, I think seeing everything change so much and then back again. So I started gaming when I was like, very young, 2600 NES era. And then things went, every time that it went forward, it was like a huge leap. It was like, oh, we're closer to reality now. Like, look at the cinematics now. They look so realistic. And that was a thing up until the PlayStation 3, more or less, when things were like, oh, look at this. It looks so real. And then that kind of stopped. And it started going backwards. And this is something I love. That I guess my answer would be, the thing that impressed me the most is the rise of the indies that is happening. That has been happening for a couple of years now, and it's still very strong. And now indies are not that small anymore; they're kind of becoming bigger and bigger again. And I think we're going to repeat the whole cycle. But it's really nice to see like games like The Messenger, which is 8-bit, 16 bits, right? Yeah. And it's a ridiculously good video game. Like, The Messenger is so much fun, and controller wise and whatnot is very simple. Like, it's very tied to the roots. And seeing that happening right now, when some other games, what they're doing, or some other developers, what they're doing is this AAA games that they look extremely good, but sometimes they feel very empty. Like, going back to that, when you can play this game in 2022, it's a game that, yes, it's 8-bit looking or 16-bit looking, and it's amazingly fun. And I think it's what takes me to the main point, which is video games are fun. Like, and they should be fun. Like, that's what it is, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to look the best or sound the best, or like, have to be fun.
Yeah,
they have to be fun as games. And yeah, so I guess that has surprised me a lot, seeing them going back to those roots. It's been really fun too.
That's a beautiful answer. I never even really kind of thought about that, but I found that I've always liked games that look sort of nostalgic also. So to sort of turn back and
Shovel Knight.
Shovel Knight is unbelievably good. So much fun.
Yeah.
But I feel like that. I feel like a 16-bit widow. Like, I keep crying about the 16-bit era all the time. And it's like, and so every time someone gives me like 16-bit, I'm like, hell yeah, like let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. Also, just looking to the future, what do you think might be next for gaming? And your hopes for the future, even maybe?
Well,
Tell me the future. Tell me what's going to happen.
So okay, I'm going to tell you right now.
Just kidding. Yeah.
What I don't want to happen is any kind of metaverse VR immersion thing. I don't want that.
It's coming.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Like,
I'm not saying I want it, but it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. I refuse, but it's coming. But yeah. What I think it's going to happen right now, and I think that if people pay attention to what Elden Ring is doing, if they learn something from that, I think we will be seeing old formulas becoming better, like coming back but stronger. So, without spoiling anything, if you haven't played Elden Ring, then yeah, it's okay. But it takes the Dark Souls formula. It takes the From Software formula, right? The base, the core one. It just makes it better. And it makes it feel new. So you're really not playing Dark Souls 4. You're playing this new thing that takes the old formula and just expands on it. So if developers of old games too, like they come back with whatever franchise they want to resurrect or not, it doesn't really matter, but they take an old formula and they inject something new to it to make it feel really fresh and to make it feel like its own thing that still has the old soul of the previous game or the previous formula, whatever. I think that's what's going to happen. I think if they need to, because of what we talked about before, when we are not just one target anymore, we're many, and they have to keep growing because we have. So those old formulas and those old games as well. I think Nintendo is also a good example of this, what they do with their franchises. Like Zelda tries to innovate a lot, and Mario does the same. And I think that's a smart thing to do. I think Nintendo is at the place that they are because of that. Like they know how to make their games and how to market those games, and they really think about these things. Right? It's not about repeating, it's not about copy pasting. It's about, okay, let's take the heart and soul of this thing and improve on it or make something different. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate to keep calling out Breath of the Wild too, and I'm sorry, Elden Ring players, if talking about Breath of the Wild offends you, but I think it was kind of the same thing that happened to Zelda. You had this sort of linear, like one-track experience that they sort of like opened up and like did a kaleidoscope of things with. That it's kind of like, go anywhere, do what you explore, like take this game in how you want to.
Yeah, and I think it's extremely valid to call Breath of the Wild right now for the conversation. Like Breath of the Wild was a game changer, and I think many developers after Breath of the Wild learned from Breath of the Wild, and they were like, okay, we need to change some stuff in the way that open world games now work, and this is something that I can take notes of this and use it in my game then in the future. I think another good example of this thing for the subgenre of action adventure games, which are unfortunately called Metroidvanias, I think it will be Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is it's developers are 4 people.
Oh wow!
It's a very small team, and it's a gigantic game. Like you're gonna spend 40 hours, 50 hours in that game to 100% the whole thing, and many Metroidvanias after Hollow Knight are taking notes. And they were like, okay, I think, because Hollow Knight took notes as well, right? Yeah. From Symphony of the Night, from Dark Souls, and then combine these things, and he was like, this is our product now. Because you can combine them. Who is saying that you cannot combine the best of all worlds and make something good?
Right? I'm looking out for that Mario Kart Dark Souls crossover.
Yes. When you're gonna have to grab your souls after someone just like blue shells you. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Another question as we're closing in towards the end here is, what 3 games would you recommend to our audience to play?
Okay. I think I already recommended Suikoden 2, right?
Yep.
So Suikoden 2. It has to be. It's a must. Okay, I'm gonna do this more interesting in the sense that I'm not gonna just say my favorites or whatever. I'm gonna try to go through generations. So for the SNES, I would recommend Chrono Trigger. Go play Chrono Trigger, and go listen to that soundtrack because it's beautiful.
Secret of the Forest. That's my jam.
There you go. Yeah, I mean. Any of that, Yasunori Mitsuda is freaking genius. So for the PlayStation, go for Suikoden 2, another JRPG, but it's also very, very good. And I think I should recommend Hollow Knight to everybody.
Okay,
go play Hollow Knight as well. But I'm not biased or anything.
Of course not.
It's not. No.
Just like I'm not biased towards any Half-Life games and telling people they should go play them and buy a whole VR setup just so they can play Half-Life Alyx.
You gotta do the thing. You gotta do the thing.
What thing? What, this? D-pad or
this one? Yeah. That. Oh.
Okay. Do the thing. Yeah.
I'm not biased towards Half-Life at all.
No, not at all. It's okay.
All right. Well, and I guess last question is, where can people find you in the series of tubes? Now, the series of tubes being the internet, just in case that's not clear, because I have had to explain that a couple of times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, I guess not everyone's up to date on their U.S. government memes of talking about the internet, saying it's not a truck that you dump things on. It's a series of tubes. So,
a series of tubes. It is what it is. Well, people can find me at twitch.tv/Dangil. That's where I stream from Monday to Friday. I stream at 6:30 Central European Time, which is 12:30 p.m. Eastern in the US. They can also find me on Twitter at Dangil_84. So if you want to get any updates, sometimes I publish the emotes that I do there. If I have any commissions, I also post them on Twitter as well. And I stream regularly, like from Monday to Friday, around 3 to 4 hours a day. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being here. It was great having you on and chatting. Let's see. So, folks, you can find Dangil on Twitch, like you said. You can see him live all those days, Monday through Friday, like you mentioned. You can also check him out on Twitter. You've got a Discord as well. I will also make sure that I will have links in the show notes so that people can just tap on the things to find you in all the places in the tubes. These interview episodes are also now being hosted in video format on the Retro Game Time Machine YouTube channel. So, folks, you can head on over there, check it out. Don't forget to subscribe once you're there. And lastly, thanks so much for listening to the show, or also maybe even watching the show. Maybe you're on YouTube and you're seeing this. Yeah, you can see us waving. We know there are a lot of podcast options.
I'm sorry you have to stare at me. I apologize.
It's okay. You're not so bad to stare at. We know there are a lot of podcast options out there, and we appreciate you taking the time to put our words in your ears and our faces in your eyes. It really does mean a lot. You can also check out our website at www.retrogametimemachine.com, and you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, and pretty much anywhere that you can find podcasts. You can join us on Discord, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and you can support us at the $2 and $5 tiers on Patreon. May your video games be fun, and bye for now.
See ya.
Bye-bye.